Hey, the best noon sports show period is going to be live on the other side of this quick open. We're going to be talking Buckeyes recruiting and plenty of questions from you all as we get ready for Big Ten Media Days. Without further delay, let's roll that open. Happy Friday. It's July 22nd. I am your host, Kevin Noon. It is the best noon sports show period, and we are live. There we go. Make sure I got all of the bugs in there set up, and I will switch the page over to the comments. I'm not going to be doing any other adjustments per se. Haven't done a live show in a little bit here, so it's kind of hit or miss as to when people are going to jump in or jump out of the stream. And if a lot of people don't show up, then it'll be a short show, and if a lot of people show up, we'll go for a while. I have my Gatorade handy, so I won't be able to use an excuse of a dry, scratchy throat as to why I need to jump off. Um, but until then, we will start going. I mean, I'm sitting here looking, and I said in a previous show, I'm not going to wear a black shirt because I completely fade into the chair and the sofa and everything else, and I'm just this floating head. And here I am wearing a black shirt. So there you go. Already have some questions in the queue. One of our great super fans out there, where goes one, loaded up the queue with questions, which helps me out as we wait for people to get in and to get a little bit more live interaction. But don't be shy. Don't hesitate. Be sure to get those questions in there. I will answer what I can. Obviously, there are some topics that are off limits. I don't think I need to explain that anymore, but I do want to be able to come out and say that now. I want to say that later, that there just are some things that can't be talked about for a multitude of reasons, and we will just move on from there. Let me kind of get in. Well, let me start with the news of the day, and then I think we'll probably have to reset at the half hours. More people start to show up, and kind of go from there. Ohio State recruiting took a bit of a hit today. Offensive lineman, originally from Finland, Olas Alanen, ended up committing to Alabama. I don't think that ended up being a surprise that it was Alabama. I think it was probably less of a surprise that it was not Ohio State. Ohio State looked very good there for a little bit, and then it seemed to be trending toward Miami, and then it seemed to be trending toward Alabama, and then it stopped at Alabama. And I think the good news is, I'm trying to get everything set here on my shot, is you got time. It's late July. I mean, obviously, you want to go out and get your top targets. And everybody is like, Noon, why is Ohio State's offensive line recruiting still wonky? They made the coaching change. Everything should be set. Everything should be set from that point. But it is what it is. It takes a little bit of time. It's a relationship business. Bobby, I see your comments coming in. I see my good friend Mike jumping in here with his comments too. I will start getting to comments here in a minute. I had a text message come up on my screen, and I was trying to read that just to make sure that I didn't have to run to the store or anything like that after I got off of the show. But it's going to take Justin Fry a little bit of time to build those relationships, because he was at UCLA and recruiting different guys than who Ohio State's recruiting. And it's not always a case of that you're able to go from one school to another and that everything goes hunky dory. Just ask Jim Knowles. Ask Jim Knowles and what happened with Tackett Curtis. And Tackett Curtis ends up committing to USC for a coach that is no longer at the school that he was at a previous year. So, it just goes and shows how wacky recruiting can be. And when you think you have a beat on it, you really don't. And it's why it's a soap opera. And honestly, nobody would be following it if it were all cut and dry. Would you guys be here talking with me about recruiting and everything else if it's just a matter of, okay, here's this laundry list of kids, and they're going to get these kids, and that's it. And just a matter of when these are going to happen. There's no drama, there's no buildup, there's no excitement. I mean, sure, I think there might be a couple people who'd want to talk about it, but I think that the excitement of the chase and everything else. I mean, we're not sitting here watching Young and the Restless. We're not sitting here watching Days of Our Lives. And most of us have to work for a living and can't, sit there and watch that type of daytime TV. So this is the kind of soap opera that we all get to follow along. So we kind of go from there. Let me get to a couple of just welcomes, and then I'll start hitting a couple of questions. Again, we'll probably reset with the recruiting at the half hour. Conversely, if I get asked questions directly about recruiting, we'll get to that too, because this is your show. This is your show. I'm here to answer your questions. This is my personal show here on my personal channel. We kind of started by making it a non-Ohio State show. For now, it is an Ohio State show. The Best Noon Sports Show period does not know any boundaries. We'll kind of go, except for the boundaries I set. And as I said, I have set a couple boundaries, but we'll kind of go from there. So here we go. Have a great show, Kevin. Thanks. One of my really good friends in the industry who runs a great LSU site. If you are an LSU fan, check out Tiger Bait. It is far and away my favorite LSU site. I know a lot of people in that market, and Mike Scarborough and his gang do a fantastic job down there. Jordan Kapler, great to see you. I hope you're doing well. Well, Jordan, life goes on, and you just have to kind of keep moving. And if I said that I was my best me right now, that would probably be a lie. But the show must go on, and if you don't keep moving, it's hard to build inertia again. So you just keep going. Chuck here, you're the best, Kevin. Love your work, and we'll support you wherever you end up. I really appreciate that, Chuck. We'll just kind of see how things go there at this point. We have Jan Williams. Great to hear your voice again. Hope it goes on for years to come. Me too. I'm not ready to call it quits. I don't know how to do anything else. That's kind of the problem. You don't want me out there on your construction site. I'm not very handy. You don't want me, in a different world. Culinary arts sounds really entertaining to me, but I'm 50 and it's too late to start. I'm not going to go to culinary school. First of all, how do you pay the bills while you're in culinary school? And the problem is it's like, oh, never trust a skinny chef. Well, I guess I'd be trusted pretty well, but I'd probably gain 30 pounds doing all of that. Where goes one who's dropped in a lot of comments earlier? We will start getting to those, I promise. Good afternoon, Buckeyes. Ryan Dawes with the inside joke. Thanks for going live, you coward. I love going live. And as I've said before, part of the reason I enjoy going live is because I don't have to prepare as much. You guys are going to carry the conversation. I've had live shows ready to where I have 45, 50 minutes of preparation done, all sorts of things ready to talk about, and I get to 5 minutes of it. My nightmare is that I go live and nobody gets on board because, again, I don't really have a platform at this point other than social to say I'm going live, and I don't do a really great job of promoting it. I'm really going to hopefully get stuff on the replay value here. But, if I was sitting here talking to myself, this would probably be a 30-minute show. I could squeeze 30 minutes out of nothing. I could do 30 minutes any day. I mean, hell, we're already at 8. So I could do 30 at any point. But at the end of the day, I have to have a show that's compelling and that you guys want to watch. If I just sit there and start reading from Sum of All Fears by Tom Clancy, I don't think that I'm going to get a huge audience. I mean, I'd listen. I love Tom Clancy's books. R.I.P. Where goes one? You are my go-to. I really, really appreciate that. And I also want to sit there and give a shout out to my boys, Tony Gerdeman and Tom Orr. I know that they have started launching their audio-only product once again. I put it in my notes in my previous show that ran yesterday on Thursday. Haven't had a chance to really talk to them too much over the last couple of days, but I was happy to see on social that they had an audio show, and be sure to give them a listen. I'm sure that they are cross-promoting it as well with me. Bobby Heath, like the video and share it so Noon gets more eyeballs on the channel. Absolutely. You can help me out a multitude of ways here. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, hit that bell so you don't miss a single update that comes here. The only things that I'm putting on this channel right now are this show. If you If you really like the show, you can always drop in a super chat as well. But that's, we've gone from something that doesn't cost anything to something that does cost something. Let me earn your business. Let me earn your business, and we'll kind of go from there. And just to kind of take care of the rest of the housekeeping, give a like and increase the view. Absolutely. I let this channel sit dormant for about 9 months. And while I didn't lose a lot of my followers, you kind of lose momentum. And when you lose momentum, you don't get distributed as much and everything else. I mean, it's not like people were going in and taking the bell off or anything because they didn't know. I mean, you don't know what's on your YouTube channel, I mean, or what you're following unless you actually do that a lot. So, yeah. Let me get to some questions here. Where goes one? As I said, who front loaded us with questions, so I appreciate that. What is the most important thing I want to see out of training camp? Well, there's that's kind of a mixed thing because how much training camp do you really get to see? And we'll get to see bits and pieces. I mean, there certainly are some interviews. So what I see with my eyes versus what I see from everything are going to be two different things. So I'm going to take what I see with my eyes because what I'd see with my eyes would be stretching. And I'm sure this team can stretch just fine. So I don't need to be too concerned about that. But to me, it's just going to be a matter of how Jim Knowles and the defensive staff are able to put the pieces together. I have really good confidence in what the offense is going to look like. We know what the receivers are going to be like. We know what Trevion Henderson can look like when he is on. Is Mayan Williams really going to lock in and be that strong second back who might even cut into some of Trevion Henderson's carries? Can somebody like Evan Pryor step into a little bit more of a role? I know he's become kind of a fan favorite. A lot of people want to see more Evan Pryor. I think he's developing. He's getting bigger. I mean, it was obvious that he was a young guy last year and he got blown up on a couple of plays, and that was problematic. But we know what offense is going to look like. I mean, yeah, there are going to be some questions about the offensive line. What is it going to look like now that they're not four tackles in a center? Are we going to see some things that are better in run blocking? I mean, we obviously knew what we saw in pass pro. I mean, it was a gigantic line. It was one of the biggest lines I remember covering because it was four tackles and a center. So as they transition more, as they bring guys in like Donovan Jackson, who I think is going to be an absolute stud, what is that going to look like? So there are finer, smaller points on the offensive side, but on the defense, I mean, there were problems last year from the word go. So how are things going to go there? And I've told the story elsewhere that I spoke to somebody who's close to the program and they're like, let people keep doubting. I mean, I'm going to oversimplify it. They were not as in your face about this, but it was like, let people keep doubting. We're pretty good. I mean, they've got the guys, they've got the pieces. I think it's just a matter of putting it together, putting guys in the right positions and giving them the opportunity to excel. And that's really going to be what it's going to come down to. And how long is it going to take for them to really be able to execute the Jim Knowles system as if it's habit, as if it's second nature? Tanner McAllister is going to be able to fly right out there and do it. He's already been in that defense. He knows it. But what Tanner McAllister is able to do versus what a Josh Proctor is able to do versus what a Denzel Burke's able to do versus what a Steel Chambers is able to do versus what a Jack Sawyer is able to do. That's all different because for all these guys, you only have so much time that you're able to work with the players, and then the rest of it is on them. And if they, and I truly believe that as these players want to be there, and they're not going to be like, I'd rather play video games. I'd rather screw around. They're going to be working hard on it. But what happens when it's live? And they don't have a Youngstown State to open the season. They go right off the bat with Notre Dame. And I mean, I've started doing some research on Notre Dame, and I always go through and not allow myself to buy all of the clippings that I read about anybody preseason because you're always reading best case scenario. And there's probably not a program out there that gets the benefit of the doubt going into the preseason more than Notre Dame, at least with its ranking. I think if you sit there and you took a poll of 100 college football fans, just varied interests of who their favorite team is, who they like, who they dislike, at or near or at the top of the list of overrated teams in terms of rankings each year would probably be Notre Dame. They just always seem to get the benefit of the doubt. So, what are they going to get there? But a real long answer to something that probably should have been a little bit shorter. I want to see how the defense comes together. Where goes one? I'll get into some more of your things. I know I've got some more things here toward the bottom of this. Let me find here. Uh, Most of us are probably OSU fans, but it'll be interesting when you broaden the scope of my podcast. Yeah, I mean, I did a couple that were just general, and there's a very real chance at some point this could turn back into being that show. I don't know what my lineup of content is going to be. I don't know what I'm doing today. I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. I'm not. I would like to be a planner. I'm secretly want to be a planner, but that's just not where I am. A future job as like an event planner is not in my cards because I can be very detail oriented and I can do this and I can do that. But I think maybe if it were my job, it would be different. I think I can do certain things in my job scope that I can't do in my personal life. It's when you're talking to a friend and it's like, oh, don't worry, guy or gal or whatever. There are plenty of fish in the sea. And then when you're single and you can't see the forest for the trees or the fish for the water or whatever. You can't do that. So it's very easy to be able to do things externally and not be able to do them internally. And I'm the poster child for that. I am absolutely the poster child for that. So take it for what it's worth. Uh, One of the good friends of our show, Sue Zabo, is on there saying hi to Where Goes One. Where Goes One, still trying to say, let's share and promote the podcast when live. Done. Absolutely. The more interest and the more interaction I get in the live shows, if we're being completely honest, will motivate me to do more live shows. I enjoy the live shows because it requires less preparation, but the tape shows are 15 to 20 minutes generally. And this, I've blocked out an hour and a half. And we'll see if I go 60 or if I go 120 or whatever. Got some honeydew list things going on. My sister and her family are coming into town today. So noon podcast central will actually be where my niece is going to be sleeping. My 17-year-old niece is going to get to sleep in this room. So, we'll kind of go from there. Let me stop from that thought. And Ryan Dawes, very generous with a very nice super chat. Ryan, thank you so much. I see a lot of worrying from the OSU fan base on the misses in 23, especially the defense. It depends on Noel's success year one. But isn't having a good to real good D and a spectacular offense enough? That's a very good point. And there's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot to talk about there because you need to have a product to sell. You could be the greatest car salesman. You could be whatever. You could be William H. Macy in Fargo. He's my deal. You can be great, and then if you don't have anything to sell, what are you doing? I mean, what are you doing at that point? So if the Ohio State defense comes out and puts up similar numbers, worse numbers, I mean, that's going to be more catastrophic than anything. It's kind of like, but not exactly, but it's kind of like when you win a national championship, everybody expects that next immediate class to be the one that blows up. It's generally the class after that because you have to start you yes, Ryan, the undercoating. I was thinking that the whole time. Thank you for picking up on my joke. It's my deal. Um, you go from you need to sit there and after you win that national championship you kind of start with the kids that are a year out and it's like this is what we're doing and obviously we see you in this role and we have proven success and everything else. I mean, one thing not to forget too is that the whole recruiting landscape has kind of changed with NIL and some other things. And have you heard that they're now the N1 the Division 1 NC2A Division 1 steering committee or whatever is talking about taking one time out of the transfer criteria. So you should be able to transfer a bunch. I don't know if I like that. But once again, it goes in to show how we're in a whole new world when it comes to recruiting and such. Because You have to kind of hold back a little bit in terms of you want to be able to go and get some of those guys out of the portal, the top, these guys that are from the smaller programs that want to play on a bigger stage to get more visibility, those 1 year, 2 year type of deals. What does that mean for your high school recruiting? Because you have to hold spots back. There's a lot going on there, but the spectacular offense part of it, I don't know if that means a lot to a defensive player. I mean, everybody wants to win games. A lot of these guys are coming out of winning programs, but not everybody. It's a zero-sum game. Only two teams enter, one team wins. That's not like both teams can be assigned to win. So people, you're going to have losses, but you want to win. Winning is fun. Losing sucks. I mean, I can't put it any more simple than that. Losing sucks. So, teams want to be able to do that. So having a spectacular offense is going to mean something to these kids. I mean, especially, 24, having a chance to see what 23 looks like. But I still put so much of this to relationships, and it's a relationship business. And I don't think you bring Jim Knowles in as your ace recruiter. And that's not saying that he can't recruit. That's not saying he won't recruit. That's just saying that's not his job. That is, it's part of his job description, but that is not his job. I mean, you have got guys on this staff that if you put a hierarchy of what their job responsibilities are, recruiting is going to be much higher. Jim Knowles is the head coach of the defense. Jim Knowles is there to fix an issue and be able to have this team move forward. So, it's concerning seeing guys slipping away, seeing Tackett Curtis, seeing Popo Aguirre, seeing potentially Caleb Downs, seeing guys like that. I'm just kind of staying on the defensive side of the ball. But I've also talked about it on other shows. How much have we talked about Jason Moore? He really yes, I was gone. I was on vacation in Jamaica, and I had a question about Jamaica. I'll get to that in a few minutes. I wasn't really around for that one. I don't think either I was already in Jamaica or I was already technically on vacation. And so I wasn't really able to see a lot of the comments there. I mean, I think it was people post the dancing banana and you get 12 hours of excitement, and then it's on to the next one. It's that Dave Chappelle GIF file. It's on to the next one. Nobody's really caring at beyond that. So I made the comment on my last show, and for those of you who watch every show, thank you so much. I don't want to keep referring to things that I just said 24 hours ago. It seems my internet is being a little wonky, so hopefully we can get that fixed. All right, I'm not getting the internet notice, so bear with me here. Let me look at my internet. Okay. So the point is that if these kids all committed in October and November and December, people would be losing their minds. Oh my God, this is the greatest class ever. This is fantastic. But they commit throughout the year, and they commit beyond the year. And because of doing all of that, you lose track of them. You lose sight of them. You lose sight of Brandon Ennis. You lose sight of Carnell Tate. You lose sight of Jelani Thurman. You lose sight of Luke Montgomery. And I could go on and on and on with a 19-man class already. So there's there's a lot of perspectives that have to be put into play there. But Ryan, once again, thank you for the super chat. Maybe I answered your question. Maybe I didn't, but I think we talked around it enough. James Gilmore, let me click on that one. Hey, Kevin, great to see you back. I'm not worried about recruiting, but not landing Downs, in my opinion, matters quite a bit. Kid is unique. All right, it matters about Downs. And I mentioned that there, and that was always going to be a tough pull. But I'll say this. I've always said that it was going to be Ohio State or Alabama, with UGA running kind of third. And for now, it seems like it's going to be Alabama. I haven't heard. I mean, I still talk to people who think that Ohio State has a pretty good shot, but I'm not hearing the same type of confidence that I was hearing before. But I think that it's still there. It's done, but it's not done. I think he's already got his video done, which doesn't really bode well in some regards. So I'm not going to pump a bunch of sunshine and try and say, oh, don't worry. There's nothing to see here. You're fine. You're fine. I mean, it's concern. I mean, there is a concern, and Caleb Downs is going to be a tremendous. He's going to be a tremendous player where he goes. When Ohio State lost Jordan Battle to Alabama, that one was a big loss. That one really, I don't want to say bothered me, because at the end of the day, I have to be very agnostic at how I look at all this. I can't, you don't get into a rooting phase or whatever, but it certainly was disappointing for Ohio State that they had him and then they lost him, and that's a different situation than Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs has never been committed, and let's remember too that part of the Jordan Battle situation was the coaching change at Ohio State and some other concerns there, and Alabama just didn't let go. Alabama did not let go whatsoever. So it's difficult, and I mean, you're going to lose some kids like that. You're going to lose some. I don't like throwing around the term generational, a generational kid, because generational would say that they have to be pretty infrequent. So you can't really have generational kids every year. How about just super duper impactful? He is a super duper impactful kid. And, you would love to bring somebody in who can give you 2+ years of starting at his position and hold it at a high level. So there is some concern there, but let's not forget that Perry Eliano and Tim Walton have done a great job on the recruiting trail as well. So it's not like they're like staring at each other going, I don't know what's going on. I mean, they're out there killing it. Just when you go and have to recruit nationally, you're going to have to recruit in guys' backyards. And while this kid's in Georgia and he may not end up at UGA, Alabama is not exactly far away. It's not, from suburban Atlanta to Tuscaloosa is not a hike. Then again, in this day of, interstates and planes and everything else, you could get anywhere that you want to. It just depends the cost. So, I mean, I hope I kind of addressed your comment there, James. That's kind of my view on that. Let me get through a couple more hellos, and then we'll get back to some more questions. Sue talking about the crystal balls on Downs. I mean, I'm hearing things kind of through back channels. I've haven't had time to watch people's feeds on crystal balls or future casts or RPM. Here we don't pick and choose winners on which platform we're going to talk about. All of them are out there. I acknowledge all of them. Ryan saying that Luke Montgomery tweeted at him to come home. Yes, they're all saying that. They're all trying to say that, but they were all saying that to Olas Alanen too. So that doesn't necessarily, they're going to do what they can, and I mean the players are going to do what they can in terms of recruiting. I mean that's for certain, but it doesn't always equate. It's just me, Tim. Last time I checked, we're still number one. I haven't looked at all of the recruiting services. I know Rivals has them one. I don't know what On3 and 24/7 do. 1, 2, splitting hairs at this point. Again, Ohio State. If Ohio State's 1 and Notre Dame's 2, are either of them going to be 1 or 2 at come February? I don't know. I mean, Alabama, UGA, some schools like that. Once they kind of really start to turn it up, I mean, is that going to? It might be too much for either school to overcome. And then, of course, people are going to be like, "Oh yeah," and then the Bama bump. Oh, I'm not going to even get into that one, but just know that I know that there's somebody out there thinking about the Bama bump. My LSU buddy saying OSU fans should not fret over losing Tackett Curtis. I've had a chance to talk with him there. I've always liked what I've seen out of Tackett, but I understand that he's playing kind of like south of Shreveport in the heel of Louisiana. If you look at the boot in the heel, not necessarily playing against the biggest competition in the state. He's not playing Baton Rouge. He's not playing New Orleans. I mean, hell, not even necessarily playing some of the schools out in the heel where my wife's from, not playing Sulphur, not playing some of those schools. So it would be interesting to see how he translates, out there, because we can watch film of guys out there and they just look like they are 1,000 times better than everybody on film. It's because they are. I don't know. People remember watching Terrell Pryor's high school video at Jeanette, in part of the Whippeal in Pennsylvania. I mean, he was playing against a bunch of 5'10" dudes who had no business being on the same field as him. Obviously, Terrell Pryor flashed when he wanted to in the college game. So, that kind of flies in the face of saying, well, things aren't going to necessarily work out with Tackett Curtis. But there was a mixed review. So I always kind of had to laugh because I have some people telling me Tackett Curtis is good, but not this difference maker. And then I have people telling me that, oh, after watching Tackett Curtis's tape, he's the player I want most in this class. I mean, and that's from fans. I wasn't from coaches. I've never had that I don't talk to coaches about that in particular. That's just not where I want to go on that. But so there's a huge, wide scope of where we are, of where he's a musket. He's this musket, and he's a dude. I mean, what happens if Ohio State gets Arvell Reese out of Glenville? And I know there's another linebacker. The name's escaping me. I've got to get a little bit deeper into my recruiting stuff because that's what y'all want to talk about. So I've got to get a little bit better at that. But Arvell Reese is one that comes to mind. And, there are going to be people out there saying, oh, it doesn't necessarily mean just because he's from Ohio that he's a done deal at Ohio State. Well, he's from Glenville. And it's been a minute since Glenville has had a kid. But I certainly see Arvell Reese ending up at Ohio State. Next year, I obviously see Bryce West ending up at Ohio State. I think those are both. I'm about ready to put those both in pen. I feel pretty confident on those. I think they're going to be fine there. And I really didn't think that they were going to get Popo Aguirre. I think the concern is what are they going to do at linebacker? The last huge linebacker class that they had was Dallas Gant, Taraja Mitchell, and Kayvon Pope. Dallas Gant's at Toledo. He'll be at Ohio Stadium week 3 of the season, but on the other sideline. I don't remember where Kayvon Pope transferred to. Oh, I don't know why I keep thinking like James Madison, but I mean he's gone after a very public blow up during a game, and then Taraja Mitchell's still here, and that was like 2 5s and a 4, or a 5 and 2 4s. So I think that there's a concern because people want to sit there and they want to see the Joshua Perrys, even the Darren Reeds, even though or Darren Lee, sorry, not Darren Reed, the lineman out of Columbus, Georgia. Darren Lee, the linebacker out of New Albany, Ohio. I mean, he was a 3-star, kind of listed as an athlete, but I mean, people are concerned because they're not seeing those guys walking through the door. I want to see what this defense looks like being a nickel, nickel-ish. I mean, not having a Sam on the field. What are they going to look like? What does that mean for recruiting moving forward? Yes, you're still going to have to roll out there in a 4-3 against Wisconsin. Period. I just did some reading on Wisconsin yesterday, and it's once again going to be a team that is going to run. I mean, they had a guy who ran for 1,200 yards. They had a guy that ran for 800 yards. And then quarterback, you got Graham Mertz, a guy that's still kind of like 1.2 touchdowns to an interception. Still a 59% career passer. So they're going to have to get better at passing, but they're going to run. And Ohio State's not going to be able to come out here and finesse some 4-2-5. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Let me jump through here. Sue saying, what hurts most is losing recruits to Bama. It's a monkey we can't get off our backs. I hope we beat them this year. Alabama's Alabama. It is what it is. And I had a buddy of mine who talked to a lot on text messages who messaged me this morning as I was, I think, unloading the dishwasher. Again, as I said, my family's coming into town this week, like 7:00 tonight. So I definitely have some honeydew chores that I've got to do because the wife doesn't want my family to think that she is not controlling a clean house here. And I've done everything humanly possible, in her opinion, to not leave the house clean. But we were talking, I was like, well, Alabama's going to get theirs. But the good news is that there's just not 25 kids out there that are the secret sauce. And those are the only 25 kids that are going to be able to get you there. You're going to run into that brick wall. Ohio State lands kids over Alabama. Unfortunately, a lot of the kids that Ohio State beats Alabama for are not from the Southeast, because Alabama recruits nationally as well. But Alabama, it does a lot in the Southeast. Ohio State tries to get into the Southeast. Ohio State gets its kids. Ohio State's gone in and done very well in Florida. It's been able to go into Georgia. But it's when you're going into SEC country to recruit against the king of the SEC and the king of the NC2A, if we're being completely honest right now, you're probably going to lose more than you're going to win. It's like if you go up to bat, the goal is to get a hit every time. Nobody's batting 1,000. Nobody's batting 800. When was the last time somebody was batting 400? You better be batting 800 at home. You better be at Ohio State with no real competition in the state. You better be batting higher than 800. But if you're batting 400 in the Southeast, you're a Hall of Famer. If you're batting 300, you're signing some pretty lucrative deals. So let's just say you got to bat 300. And yes, you could prioritize and say, well, this is, landing Caleb Downs is that clutch situation, bottom of the eighth, down 2, bases loaded. You really need to get a ball in. You really need to get a ball out and into the outfield and at least drive 2 home to tie the game. I get it. There are going to be some kids that are going to be more impactful in terms of Alabama covets them versus the ones that maybe Alabama isn't recruiting them, but you're beating out Auburn and Georgia and whoever. So, I mean, I get it. It's not a case of where, you can't sit there and just make a clean cut and say it's just the same from every situation. But with Alabama, you're just gonna have to bang your head into that wall sometimes and just hope for the best. And it's tough. It's tough because Ohio State has been so successful on the field. I mean, taking a couple of games off of the table, but has been really successful on the field, really successful on the recruiting trail. And then you kind of run into this, 900-pound being in the room that just has sucked all the oxygen out of the room and just makes it difficult. So I feel you. Let me jump in here. SS Craddock, great to see you doing this. People will have to rediscover you. Hope you have Tom and Tony on frequently. Yeah, we'll kind of see what goes on there. I know that there is going to be a little bit of a rediscovery process. I mean, again, this was a channel I left dormant for a while. It's going to be a little bit of buildup. I'll say this: I've gained about 350 subscribers in the last week and a half or so, which is more than 10%. Because I wasn't really pressing this channel that much, as I said, for 9 months, and then at my previous stop, this was my channel, but I wasn't doing a lot of live podcasting. And I think that honestly, the live podcasting is where the rediscovering happens. I mean, we will do some great replay value on this show as well. I know that, but the live is really where it's at. And that's because we get you involved. We know our regulars on here. We know our semi-regulars on here. If I see a name that I've never seen before, I may not say something on the air, but I'm like, that's a new name. That's a new name. That's a new name. Somebody like Sue, not a new name. Somebody like It's Just Me Tim, that's not a new name. Ryan Dawes, not a new name. But there are new names that come in all the time, and that's where the growth comes from. Let me just jump down here. Steve saying, hey, Kev, good to see you. Which one of the recruits we are watching is announcing today? I can't remember. Well, it was Olas Alanin at 8:30 Eastern who announced for Alabama. I don't know if there's anybody else today. I mean, I know that we've got some periodically over the next few days. Umeozulu, the defensive lineman, Desmond, I think is his name, but Umeozulu, I think, is at the end of August. Caleb Downs has a date set. I think, is that today? I don't know. I mean, it all kind of runs together. And, those of you who know me know I've got a lot on my mind right now. And people are like, oh, yeah, you're just drinking Gatorade. You probably have to have a little something else in there for a little pick-me-up. It's tough. I mean, it's tough to get the energy at some points, but you got to move forward on there. So I'm sorry, I don't have a list in front of me. I'm sure somebody will jump in with the comments or has already, as I'm falling behind a little bit. Producing your own show is great because you pick the pace. Producing your own show is bad because there's nobody there to sit there and be like, hurry up, hurry up. That was a big thing with Tom and Tony when we would do live shows there, and I would just kind of chime in with the questions. I'm giving them all sorts of hand signals of let's go and stuff like that. And of course, they just ran through the stop signs. And that's fine. I mean, producer can only do so much, but nobody here to produce for me at the moment. Yes, Bobby jumping in again with Alanin committing to Bama. Ryan Dawes, am I going to Media Days? That is my plan. I plan on going to Media Days. I would leave on Monday. I'd be home late Wednesday night. Issue is that I don't know if I would do a Wednesday morning show. I might do something with what I learned. I might tape something Tuesday night with what I learned from Tuesday, which are 7 teams not named Ohio State. Wednesday is Ohio State, but then I got to get back home, and then I'm probably going to be tired. So I probably on Thursday will really do something. But my goal is here on this channel, as long as I can put the interviews up live, I'm going to put them up live. At least the podium things. I may go live from some stuff from Ohio State's media session on Wednesday. That does a great job of drawing people in as well. I think a lot of it just depends on the Wi-Fi situation at the stadium, but I will certainly have programming from media days as I go kind of on my own to check things out. So you can look forward to that. Steve, how can Bama offer 100 kids at every position? Well, they can offer them. It doesn't mean you have to take them. They have the same 85 scholarship limit Ohio State has. One thing I'll say is that their recruiting department is fantastic. I love what Ohio State does. Mark Pantoni and that staff do a fantastic job. Hi, Mark, if you're watching. I doubt it at this point, but hi, Mark, if you're watching. Alabama does a great job of identifying kids as well. And I think there are going to be a couple different types of Alabama offers. There's going to be the Alabama offer. We really want this kid. There's the Alabama offer. We really kind of want to monitor this kid. And I think there's going to be all Alabama offers too that are late offers just to make their opponents work a little bit harder to land a kid. Jermaine Matthews is one that comes to mind. Jermaine Matthews absolutely could play at Alabama. Period. That is not up for debate for me. No debate. He went to LSU and tore up that camp. Had my LSU buddy reach out to me. What are your thoughts on this Jermaine Matthews kid? He was really good. Yeah, I'm not shocked. He is really good. And the fact that it took Ohio State until the point it did to offer really shocked me. But Alabama offered really late just to kind of do a heat check and be like, all right, are you really ready to be done at this point? We know then Ohio State's going to have to sit there and spend some, has going to have to put some more time into recruiting him. And I think on that one, he was pretty much had already decided he wanted to go to Ohio State. I know Kentucky and Cincinnati were there, and you can't say no to LSU to a certain extent. I mean, I'm still not sold on Brian Kelly there, but I think I can't judge all of that on one ill-advised speech of him sounding like Foghorn Leghorn. Let's see what he does there without some of the constraints that he may have had at Notre Dame. Let's see what he's able to do there, picking up the mess that Ed Orgeron kind of left. And it's hard to say. It's hard to even believe I'm saying the mess he left. They're barely removed from a national championship. And then Ed's last year was just a field of dog poops. I mean, so how much stuff is Brian Kelly going to have to fix there? I mean, I couldn't name an LSU quarterback at the time. And then, they had to go through this and people transferred out. And this isn't the LSU show. I'm sure my LSU buddies laughing and listen to me trying to talk about a program I pay zero attention to. But, you have it'll be interesting to see there. But the point is that Alabama has a lot of different flavors of offers out there. But the truth is that every year they're going to sit there and they're going to get a top 3 class. I mean, and I think as soon as you just accept that, it's easier to move forward. And it sucks when you recruit against them, whether you're an Ohio State fan or an Oklahoma fan or a UGA fan or a USC fan or whoever. It sucks knowing that you're going to lose head-to-head battles, period. Because Alabama, heavy is the head that wears the crown, and they're wearing the crown. UGA may have won the title. Alabama is still the GOAT. And that's kind of where we're at on that. Let me kind of roll through here. All right, yeah. My LSU buddy, it's 2A competition, very poor. I've seen guys play D6 in Ohio and struggle. I mean, I don't like naming names because that's just not fair to the kids, but I've seen kids come out of smaller schools and, just not be able to make the translation. I've seen kids come out of smaller schools and be able to make the translation. I've seen kids come out of huge schools, Division I in Ohio, and be able to run with it. So I think a lot of it's on the kid. That's one kid I'll be interested in following. I enjoyed my conversations, and they were just online. Never spoke to him on the phone. Never spoke to the coach. I always had the plan. Oh, I'm going to go down there. I'm going to go and see my in-laws. Maybe have the wife go in tow, and then the kid up and commits too quick. So sorry about that. Nickolish, new term. Yeah, I kind of talk out of my you know what at times here. Let me keep. Steve Buckholtz bringing up a good point about Sonny Styles. Yeah, Sonny Styles is not going to be ready out of the box. He is a year behind everybody physically in terms of age and everything else. Remember, he was a reclassification. He's at Ohio State now, but he wasn't able to early enroll because he had to finish those last credit hours to be able to graduate early. You see the kid walking around, and he's already got the body, but there's still a lot that goes into this. So it's not a case of where he's just going to be able to just walk right in and be like, all right, here I am, I'm ready to go. You get some special teams out of him this year. Maybe you see a little bit of him down the stretch as he gets to play his 4 games, but I don't even think you redshirt somebody like Sonny Styles. He is not going to be a 4-year player, period. He's going to be a 3-year player. Whether or not this year you get very little out of him or you get more out of him, 2 more years and gone. I mean, so fans love the idea of redshirting everybody that they can redshirt. Well, we can get 5 years, 5 to play 4. The kid's worth a hill of beans. He's not going to be here 5 to play 4. He's going to be here 4 to play 3 or 3 to play 3. And conversely, if somebody's here 5 years and it's not necessarily, and it's because they're not necessarily playing, 86 and out the gate, they're going to transfer. So all you're doing is saving eligibility for the kid at another school. So not team redshirt here. And I'm not saying anybody was saying to redshirt, and I haven't made it through the comments at this point. Has fallen hopelessly behind on the comments, but we're doing our best. So where goes one? I owe you one because I don't know if I'll ever get back to all your front-loaded questions. Another thing on Tackett, he refused to camp and compete. I mean, you hate to see that. I mean, Jermaine Matthews didn't really want to camp at Ohio State, but he'd camped prior. I mean, he'd gone through and put in his, he'd been seen. You always run into the situation of why isn't the kid camping? Is he protecting a ranking? Did he get ranked something at some point and he doesn't want to get there? Whatever. I mean, I understand. I mean, I've seen kids get hurt in camps. I know that there are just some coaches out there that are like, you're not camping. You can go out and you can do the Nike camp or something and try to go the opening, maybe a team camp, but I'm not going to put you out there and have you, have an ACL injury, tear a hammy, have a Achilles injury, dislocate a shoulder or something. So, but camping is very important in terms of the recruiting process. And, I get it. So I don't know. Let me keep scrolling through. I will get off last thing from my guy down there because it's turning into an LSU show. Tavion Galloway tomorrow night. Yes, the talented 2024 tight end. I tend to think we're looking on the screen at where he's going to end up committing. That's my guess. I don't know anything there. That is just my guess. He went on a Southern tour with a couple other guys that I know of and really fell in love with what's going on at LSU. I would be surprised if he did not pick them at, I think his ceremony is at a church like Saturday evening. Wish the kid the best. I've talked to him a couple of times. Great kid. Very early, 24 for a tight end commit just feels crazy to me. But when you know. And if he knows, more power to him. Lock that spot in. Lock it in. So I don't have any fault with that. And does Ohio State circle around and try and kick the tires after this season? Because remember, he's moving from Unioto to Chillicothe. So he's going up in classification. And what does he look like there? I mean, I'm sure Ohio State's going to kick the tires. Kid may be like, well, I'm not interested. You weren't interested in me enough to offer me at XYZ point. And, he has all this time to get deeper in love with LSU if that's where he ends up going or wherever he ends up selecting. Again, I'm not going to ruin the kid's moment. I don't know for certain. He has not reached out to me and said, "Hey, Kevin, I know we've only talked twice and so. This is where I'm going." But we'll see. All right, Wednesday for downs with from Steve, John Walker, the defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman, in my opinion, from Osceola, Florida, on the 28th. Ryan Dawes, we kind of talked a little bit about Galloway and the offer. They're just not sold on him at this point. And if you offer a 24 kid at this point, what happens if he's like, "All right, I'll take you up on that," and then you're like, "Oh man, we weren't ready. We weren't ready for that." I mean, you can't sit there and, as the term that we kind of use, kick them in the you know what and say, "No, we're psych. We weren't ready for that." So it's kind of a difficult situation. And I'll say this: I mean, I don't know who's in a tight end in Ohio in 23. But if Ohio State would have gotten locked down and maybe not on some kids they weren't sold in on, would they have been able to go and get Jelani Thurman out of Georgia? Would they have been able to get Ty Lockwood out of Nashville? So I mean, there's a lot of moving pieces. It's not a matter of you can just be juggling the balls and be like, "Well, we'll just sit there and offer the in-state kids and we'll just figure it out." It didn't work so well for Danny Clark. It didn't work so well for Todd Sibley Jr. So I prefer to see a little bit more of a cautious approach when it comes to in-state recruiting like that. Let me go through here. Yeah, Jonel Aguero tomorrow. Yeah, I think that one is all UGA. That one has felt like UGA. Ohio State certainly. I think Ohio State took some great swings there. I don't think Ohio State botched that one at all, Peace Clan. I just think it was that Georgia just was the shinier nickel. I mean, and that's not, I shouldn't even say this. It has nothing to do with money. I'm not saying that it was an NIL deal or anything like that. I just think that Georgia's star was burning a little brighter than Ohio State's, maybe. I don't know. That one, I don't necessarily know all the details, but my good friend Alex Lightman has been on top of that one. And Alex and I have not talked recruiting in a day or two, but we still keep in touch. And I kind of follow him when it comes to kids in that part of the country because he is on the ground there and he knows his what. Let me keep scrolling through here. Odysseus is saying we're playing checkers to their chest. I mean, Saban has an army of former head coaches as analysts. I think we're going to see some things change once the NC2A changes the limits on the amount of assistant coaches that you can have. Ohio State has some great assistants. I mean, remember they still have Todd Fitch in his role as an analyst, but when you have guys like Keenan Bailey and some of these other QC guys who are going to, in my opinion, get bumped up to coaching positions, like real coaching positions, as soon as the NC2A sees fit to take that cap off, they're going to be doing just fine. I want Keenan Bailey on the trail. Ohio State does not need any assistance for Brian Hartline in terms of recruiting receivers. I get it. But let Keenan Bailey go to his haunts. He is from South Florida. Let him go there and do in-person recruiting. I inject that into my veins. I am here for that, Keenan. There are others. And I think that Ohio State has always been slow to respond to the new trends. Ohio State was never going to have $1 million assistant coach until it did. And now it has a $1.9 million assistant coach in Jim Knowles. Ohio State wasn't going to have analysts until it did. And then it had two for a couple of years. And, they've got a lot of pieces in. They brought a lot in Coy McFarland. They brought in some other guys from Oklahoma State with Jim Knowles. They know what they're doing there. But I'm not going to say it's checkers to chess, but I'm going to say that Saban may be playing 4D chess to everybody else's 3D chess. And, it's a machine down there. This guy leaves, takes a head coaching job. They just plug in somebody else there. You got your coach rehabilitation system in terms of guys like Steve Sarkisian. You got a lot going on there. So, hats off to them. Kudos to them for what they are able to do in terms of keeping the fluidity and everything in motion. Because it's, again, if you sit there and you hit a big pothole, it's hard to get back up to speed. And Alabama has not lost speed since Nick Saban has gotten into the left lane. All right, we'll do this. LSU picked fifth in the West this morning by SEC Media. 4 total players, all SEC first, second, third teams. Hasn't been that low of a number since the 90s. I want to throw this out here from SEC. Sorry, LSU off to the side. Who is the guy that gave Vanderbilt a first place vote to win the SEC? Who in the hell gave Vanderbilt not only to win their division, but to win the whole stinking thing? What the hell? I mean, look, the Big Ten kind of got away from doing that. I mean, they do like players to watch. I mean, Cleveland.com does the preseason poll or whatever. I haven't participated in it where I think they get 2 from each beat. It's not something done by the Big Ten. When I see something like somebody voting for Vanderbilt first to win the whole SEC, I lose faith in the system and I cry a little on the inside. I mean, wow. Something I don't know if you guys were aware of, but I saw it and I'm like, my mind was blown. I couldn't believe it. Steve Buckholz, any thought on Chris Parson, 4-star to commit from FSU? Better than none. Haven't done any research on him right now. I still think that they're heavily in the Austin Novosad pursuit. I know that there's a quarterback in Louisiana that is committed to Purdue that Ohio State kind of kicked the tires on. I think things cooled down. Maybe they circle back. I don't know where he stands at this point. That was a name that was brought up to me, and then as quickly as he came on the radar, he fell right back off the radar when they got involved with Novosad and Brock Glenn. But they've got to take a quarterback in 23. You've got to take a quarterback in 23. So we'll see how wide the net gets. We have another super chat. Thank you so much for your super chat. It means the world to me. I'm using a different platform here. I needed to make sure that when I kind of was doing stuff for multiple outlets, I wasn't using properties for other outlets for my own personal passion projects. So I'm using StreamYard here. Give me a month or two and I'll see what I'm using. We don't have the cool cash register sound effect or whatever, but I'm getting better at looking for these. Your super chats mean the world to me. After Google takes its cut off the top, the rest of it all goes to this channel, which is fantastic. So thank you so much. Where goes one? Giving me clearance on not getting to his earlier questions. Peace Clan, when we beat the brakes off everybody and polish it all off with a natty, how will that affect 2024 recruiting? I like the way you think. I think that there are a lot of people that might take exception with that and saying that that's going to be the case. Beating the brakes off of everybody is always going to be difficult. You're always going to have a flat game or two. So even if you're saying Ohio State's going to go 15-0 and win the national championship, I don't know if they're going to be able to beat the brakes off of everybody. Wouldn't that be something? But, I still think that you're going to have a 31-24 game in there somewhere, a 30-21 game. I don't know. You're going to have something that's going to be closer than it needs to be. But in your situation, Peace Clan, if Ohio State is able to go and run the table, Ohio State's going to be able to say, look, we made the changes we needed to make. We let go of a favorite son in Kerry Combs to make changes, to bring in Jim Knowles, to bring in Perry Eliano, to bring in Tim Walton. And they worked. And here we are. We're national champions. We have won all of our games. Our defense is this. Our offense is this. Look at the opportunity. We took a guy in CJ Stroud who had not thrown a quarterback. He was a Heisman finalist, finished 4th one year. And I'm assuming under this scenario that CJ Stroud is probably your Heisman winner or maybe your runner-up. You're going to be able to circle a lot of things. So you've built relationships. And in building relationships, then you couple that with the successes that you have, with what you can put on tape and say, this is what we do. This is how we see you fitting in our system. I think it would be big. But again, as I've said, it's always a year, it's always a year after. It's always a year after where I really see the buzz. It wasn't a case of when Ohio State won it in 14 that suddenly they just went white hot with the next class, or 02 that they went white hot after in that next class. It's generally a year after. But I think when with Ohio State, there's a little bit of a different runway because of the fact that Ohio State was a complete team more or less on offense. I mean, we could nitpick that the running game kind of went away as the year went on. 4 tackles in the center versus, more of a traditional setup, blah, 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 blah. But we're nitpicking there largely. I mean, it was a historic offense. Defensively, on the other hand, there were some issues. There really were. There were some issues, and I think if they can fix them, that is something concrete that you can show to other kids and be like, this is what we're going to do for you. Help me, help you. Help me, help you. So there you go. Where goes one? Yes. Anybody who's able to contribute, I love it. Fantastic. It means the world to me. But you don't have to contribute as well. Not saying you shouldn't, but be sure to subscribe to the channel, like this podcast. Be sure to ring that bell and tell your friends. That's one of the other big things. If you like what we're doing, if you enjoy our Ohio State talk, if you just enjoy our pop culture talk, whatever we decide to talk about, tell your friends. I know that sometimes this is not conducive to everybody. Lunchtime on the East, morning on the West. I'm willing to move the shows around a little bit to an extent just to get everybody. But, again, I don't want to sit there and alienate my 12 o'clock, East lunchtime crowd by doing something like at 8 p.m. East. But tell your friends. The good news is I could do lots of shows. The bad news is you have to listen to me a lot. So I don't know about that. Let's just keep going through a couple of things. Kyle Dubs, hey, how are you doing, Kyle? Glad to have you here on the show. Did I miss thoughts on Caleb Downs? I mean, that one does not seem to be trending in the right direction. I haven't seen people really go to the mats and say it's Alabama and only Alabama, but it seemed I've said all along it was going to be Ohio State or Alabama with Georgia running third. And I'm still being proven correct on that one for whatever that's worth. So you kind of go from there, but Ohio State's not done. But I mean, if Caleb Downs about done, if he's got a video done, I mean, I don't know how much time there is to persuade if you're not the team at the end and at the reveal at the end of the video. So I mean, that one would hurt. I mean, because Jonel Aguero, Jayden Bonsu. I mean, you've got some other guys that you thought maybe you were going to get who are trending away as well. I mean, but again, this is not recruiting under Jim Tressel where he would offer 32 kids to sign 25. Jim Tressel every year, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I'm just saying it is a different thing. It is a different era, and it is a different view on recruiting. He would take pride and tell us how many official visits every year that Ohio State conducted. And the number was always very low. I mean, it would, again, for a 25-man class, it might be 32. It might be 34. You got the money. You got the budget. Do it. I mean, but again, I think you're seeing it's a much wider net. It's a very different view. And honestly, I think that if Jim Tressel were coaching today, if Jim Tressel were the age he was in 2002, let's not advance his age 20 years here. But if everything else were the same, I don't think he would have be able to recruit the same way. I don't think that the state of Ohio would be able to produce 50, 55, 60% of the class. I don't think it would. So I don't think he would recruit as national. And I see another super chat I will get to here in a second. I don't think he would recruit as national because that's just not what he would do. But I think we would see more Florida, more Georgia. He'd like to recruit Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania's kind of been down a little bit. It's just very different on how things work out. Let me get here. Sue, thank you so much. You have always been a great friend of the show. What is coming out of Sue's kitchen in the coming days? Because I know when we were doing pregame shows, you would talk about these maple walnut waffle whatever things and all this crazy stuff. I just need to know what you're cooking, because that is always a highlight of mine during the pregame shows. So any big plans there? We are doing pizza when my sister, my niece, and my nephew get into town. Not exactly sure. They're driving up from Charlotte, about a 6.5 hour drive or so, maybe even a little longer, because my nephew is rambunctious and they might have to stop a little bit more for him. But when they get here, we will be ordering from the local pizzeria. So thank you for everybody who's contributed to the super chat. You have paid for our pizza and then some. So you're all fantastic. I want to just put my arms around you all. Everybody has been so supportive. I love you all. I do. I mean, I know that we throw that around a lot, but you guys are fantastic. Greatest community ever. You guys are fantastic. Bobby says you can't beat noon at noon. There you go. That was kind of the goal of making this show, that it was going to be a 12 p.m. show. Then it's kind of been all over the place. And I'm like, well, if I'm going live, we're going live at noon. We're going live at noon. I've got chores to do. I've got to run to the post office. I haven't picked up my mail since I was on vacation. Nothing but bills in there. I don't want to see it. But here we got our meal. Tonight I'm making bacon wrapped filet mignons, horseradish whipped potatoes, and green beans from the garden. My niece, nephew, and sister may just have to have dinner without me because that sounds fantastic. I love horseradish. I've never put it into my whipped potatoes. I'm going to need to look at that. Not going to be able to do any of that while they're here. It's going to be a lot of pizza and hot dogs and stuff like that, just with a younger palate here. And I think that it's also kind of duller palates that don't necessarily want me to light them on fire with horseradish. But that sounds fantastic. That sounds fantastic. I was talking about maybe doing a pork shoulder for pulled pork, but I don't know. I don't know if it would be appreciated by everybody as much as it would be appreciated by my wife and myself. But yeah, Sue's saying I've got to try it. Absolutely, absolutely. I'm jotting a note. I'm jotting a note down. Horseradish potatoes. Let me write that down. H radish pots. So I'll know what that is when I finish the show here in 25 minutes. My phone has been blowing up with text messages, so I'm probably going to take this a minute or an hour 30 because I need to get back to some people on some comments. My invite is here at 7, or everybody's invite is at 7. So there you go. I will put that on Sue to put those invites out. I am not here to have people crash anybody's house. Where goes one to Peace Clan if our defense is ranked in the top 20 and OSU starts putting more dudes in the NFL? Recruiting will skyrocket. Guys want to go to the league. Plain and simple. But Ohio State puts guys in the league. Can you believe that Cam Hayward is the second highest interior lineman on the Madden scores still? How old is Cam Hayward? He's got to be as old as I am. Probably not. I'm 50. But, I mean, dude is an ageless wonder in what he does. And he's still doing it at a high level. I mean, you sit there, you have lowly drafted guys. Jordan Fuller blows up and does all of this. I mean, you've got Marshawn Lattimore. I mean, but yeah, I think that if you see some more consistency in terms of what they're going to get out of the defensive line, everybody can sit there and talk about Chase Young and the Bosas and guys like that. But, conversely, you can kind of look at that huge 15 draft class and, you do have guys like Bosa and Zeke Elliott and Taylor Decker who are still in the league. Darren Lee, I mean, he had his moments. I mean, I know he was, was on the KC taxi squad. Joshua Perry now is doing a fine job doing stuff on, I believe, on Stadium, which is somewhat affiliated with Bally Sports. I know that I've been places and I looked up at the TV and I've seen him on. So, I mean, he's up and moved himself to Chicago and has become quite the television star. But I think if you sit there and you look at this year, if Zach Harrison turns it on, I think if you get something big out of linebacker, you get great play out of the secondary, and you see guys being highly thought of by the NFL in terms of their draft positions, that's going to mean the world. So, there you go. Bobby Heath says that Live at Noon would be a cool podcast name, actually. Yeah, but then that sets up the expectation that I'd be live every noon. And as we know, this job does require a lot of ability to pivot, press conferences and things along those lines. I mean, I guess there would be a way as long as I wasn't going daily. I think the only way that I'm really going to build up this channel is to go 5 days a week. I'm not quite there yet mentally, but that is in the plans. That is in the plans. Obviously, during football season, if Friday's a travel day, may end up being a tape show. I don't know if I see a lot of benefit over the weekends, but the algorithm might like it. The algorithm may be if you're putting up 7 pieces of content a week versus 5 pieces of content a week, go for it. We will continue to expand and evolve this channel as you guys see fit. Because again, you guys are the watchers. I'm not doing this for my own health. I'm not here just talking because I'm bored. I'm talking because you guys are here listening, supporting, interacting, bringing up your own ideas. You guys are what makes this possible. I think we are caught up. So let me kind of go back here to the beginning. And I know I've missed some stuff in the middle, but again, my goal is to bail out at 1 hour and 30 minutes. If we get out a little bit early too, that is fine. I have legitimately received 2 different text messages from my wife telling me that the bathrooms need to be cleaned well. Not my usual half bleep way of cleaning the bathrooms, that I have to actually take everything off the counters, wipe the counters down, do everything. So the good news is I think that my family gets in at 7. I think my wife gets home from work at like 4. So I've got a couple of hours to dance around and talk to people and do things. So there you go. Let me scroll back down here to the bottom. All right. Well, Ryan Dawes does not want me to go, so we're going to give you at least the 20 minutes. I can't bail now. That would be immoral. That would be like stealing money. So I'm not going to do that. No, I can't do that. If people want more me, who am I to deprive you of that? So we're not going to do that. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ryan. You have been fantastic. You all are fantastic. Even if you're just hitting the like, even if you're just subscribing to the channel, even if you're hitting the bell, you all make this possible. You all brighten my day. There's not a lot out there in the world these days that puts smiles on people's faces, but you're putting a smile on my face, and I'm humbled and I'm embarrassed and I'm loving it too. So, there you go. Better get on it, Kevin. There probably won't be a third catch if you catch my drift. I'm obviously talking about my wife. Well, she's not here to see it. I've already done some of my chores. I've cleaned off the kitchen table. I've cleaned off the coffee table. I've largely cleaned up the office. I've gone through and cleaned up the litter boxes. I've cleaned up the pet feeding area. I've done some things. I have to dust bathrooms. She wants me to mow today. That's not happening. It's already warm. There's just not time. It's not like I mowed right before I went to Jamaica. So, you're going to lose out on something. And then I'm supposed to go to CVS and go pick up some pictures that she printed off because of, we have some very old pictures of them on the mantle, and they never send us pictures and we never ask for pictures. So, my 17-year-old niece, I think the last picture we have of her was like at 4. So that's an issue. My family will be fine. They will be fine. If I'm off of here at 1:30, I do have 2 things that I need to kind of like cobble together, and I've got 3 or 4 messages I got to reply to of various questions and comments and concerns. So we'll kind of go for there. But you're right, Bobby. There is not enough time in the day, and shame on me. I laid in bed until 9. I was up at 8. I laid in bed till 9. I was tired. Got up, started doing my chores or whatever. I knew that we were doing this at 12. I got to about 11. I was like, you know what? Probably should get cleaned up. Have to comb my hair and everything else. And then we kind of go from there. So, Sue believes that's a hell of a list. Her husband would laugh in her face. Yeah, well, normally, it is an eternal struggle to get me to clean the bathrooms. Eternal struggle. I'm like, why? What if I just, hit the commodes with a little spray or whatever, the blue goop, and just let it clean it off? But she's like, this is your family. You need to clean it. I'm like, okay. All right. I will. She's been very supportive. As those of you know, I've been going through a lot here recently. And my wife has been a real pro, a real champ. And I would not do anything right now to get in, fly in her face and be a pain in the rear end. She has been really good here. So I know she's not watching. That is not a plea or anything like that. She doesn't even follow me on Twitter. And I told her that's probably for the best, with all the ladies flirting with me and all. Um, let me get here, and I'm going to get back to some questions because I've seen our numbers dwindle a little bit as we're not talking about sports. We're talking about cleaning toilets. Uh, Sue, I'll just leave that one unread. I'll just leave that one unread at that point. I'm not very good about doing my chores. I'm just not. But I'm going to do what I can here. Let me scroll back up to the top. Where goes one asking me which game am I most looking forward to, excluding Notre Dame and Michigan? Um, Penn State at Penn State. It's not a whiteout. That's kind of being identified as potentially the trap game. I don't know if I buy it as a trap game. Penn State never can be a trap game by definition because a trap has to be a trap. You can't just put a bunch of spikes laying out in the middle of the field and say, oh, it's a trap. If it's like wide open and you can see it from a mile away, I think you can see Penn State from a mile away, so it can't be a trap. How about Iowa at home? I don't know. Wisconsin. I mean, Wisconsin very early in the season. I mean, that one's interesting. But I'd say if you're going to say pick one, I'd say Penn State probably. And I don't know because I don't know what to expect out of Penn State. Is it going to be Sean Clifford? Is it going to be Drew Aller at quarterback? Kind of what is the plan there for them? I mean, they were a team in 20 that started putrid and then finished hot, and then in 21, they weren't exactly world beaters. I mean, you have your moments, but we hear James Franklin talk about elite. We need to be an elite team. They haven't been an elite team, and we all had James Franklin with one foot out the door. We all thought that the USC job was going to be his potentially. Well, maybe not everybody. I thought that it was potential. I mean, before the Lincoln Riley stuff really kind of happened suddenly. So we'll see. Is he fully in? What happens there? How do they handle? Who is it they lost? Brent Pry. I think it was Brent Pry that they lost. I mean, how do they handle that? I mean, what does that look like for Penn State? But that's the game that I think has certainly the greatest marquee value. And I think it's probably going to be still the best game. I mean, Iowa is different at home than it is on the road. And Iowa's offense is still bad this year, in my opinion. Wisconsin, I'd be more concerned about playing Wisconsin later in the season because I think that at that point they're gonna sink or swim with Graham Mertz, and maybe they've moved on. Maybe they find something. I don't know. So Penn State. I'm gonna follow that up with another one. Any plans with Tony and Tom? We're just gonna have to wait and see. We're obviously right now just kind of doing our things, and that's about all I can say at this point. They're my boys, and I certainly, the shout out to their show that they've been putting up on audio only channels while I've been going video only. I have talked to Tony about coming on a show. I mean, probably recorded, just kind of talking about everything but Ohio State, just a little bit of fun. We have some ideas. I don't want to sit there and put out what we want to talk about in the show because we don't want somebody to undercut us and do that show before we do. But we'll see. Time will tell. And one more from you, and then we will. Or two more. I want to get to one with Bobby. Did I swim with the dolphins in Jamaica? I did when I went years ago. Well, Bobby, if we're being honest, I didn't leave the resort, and we had plans of doing an excursion. And I see a super chat that came in. I will jump to that here in a second. I promise. Was dealt some shocking and unhappy news, and I just did not have the motivation to leave the resort. We actually contemplated coming home, but we figured we would spend more money by changing things and trying to get home. So we just tried to make the best out of a bad situation. I love Jamaica. I've been there twice. It was just a shame that we didn't get to do anything really like that. I mean, but it is what it is. You got to roll with the punches. I mean, if you can, you can either play the ball or let the ball play you. And if you let the ball play you, you're likely to make an unforced error. So get up there and play the ball. So that's what we're trying to do. Let me get here to the super chat. Jordan Kapler, thank you for the super chat. Thoughts on Venables and Freeman as first time head coaches? Um, Venables has been coaching a lot longer than Marcus Freeman, so I kind of view them a little bit differently. I think that I think Freeman certainly has made some mistakes with some of his public comments. I think there's a debate whether or not he was misquoted in the second time around or whatever. I think that I think for Freeman, we'll start with there. He got to coach a game in the bowl game, but granted, it was kind of the same way that Luke Fickell got to coach a season of games. You don't get to really make any changes or whatever. This is going to be, game one against Ohio State is going to be his first go round with his coaches and it's going to be different. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be a different outcome. I still think Ohio State's going to win, just like Oklahoma State won. I think it's going to be much more decisive, if we're being honest. But I think he certainly has the right temperament. I think he's a really good dude. He is a really good dude. That has nothing to do with if you're angered or amused with the comments that he's made. Take that off the table. Great personality. Is total players coach. I mean, he still looks like somebody who can get out there and play. I mean, he's going to really relate well due to age with these players. I think he's assembled a pretty solid staff, and I don't think that it was a very empty cupboard in South Bend. And I think we could say that too about Oklahoma. I don't think Oklahoma was an empty cupboard either, but it did change when you lost two quarterbacks when Caleb Williams and Spencer Rattler both like peace and left. So I think that we'll see, based on Notre Dame's schedule and everything, I think we'll see a pretty solid year out of them. What does his long term look like? I don't know. That's hard to extrapolate. That's hard to really be able to predict at this point, because it's not like he came in there with head coaching experience from other places and we can say, okay, well, this is how he would respond to this. This is how he'd respond to that. We don't really know. Obviously, Notre Dame's recruiting very well at the moment, and that helps. You need dudes. You're not out there playing it yourself. This isn't a chessboard specifically, in where we know that Bishop takes Queen's Pawn or whatever. I mean, it's a lot more to it. So we'll see. And then on the other side with Venables, I was surprised, because I've been told for so long Venables was like a career assistant. I mean, yada yada yada. That's just kind of where he was, and now he's a head coach. How is he going to handle when he's in the weeds? I mean, what is he going to do when it comes to offense? Is he going to take a Ryan Day approach and being like, this is our head coach of the offense? I mean, is he going to be able to remove himself from it that much? I don't know. And then the thing is that Venables comes in, does that, and within a couple years, he's going to be in the SEC. So the terms of his deal changed from the point that he signed with the movement, because I think he signed after the Texas Oklahoma, and even if he didn't, I mean, it's going to be very different playing an SEC schedule than it is playing a Big 12 schedule. So take that for what it's worth. Bobby saying is, we're in our final 10 minutes. Final 10 minutes. The only way you can keep me, you know how, but I don't get me in trouble with the wife. I'm going back to Cancun for my third time in December for the money. You can't beat that spot. Cancun is fantastic. I know my wife watches the news a little too much, and she's seen some things. I mean, there was a shooting at the airport. I mean, there have been some tourist spots that have been hit. I tend to believe that if you don't sit there and broadcast yourself in a way to make yourself known to the Zetas or anything like that, you should be fine. We went to, where did we go a couple years ago? We went to Playa del Carmen. We went to the Hilton property in Playa del Carmen, and it was fantastic. I would highly recommend that one. I mean, yeah, it's not going to be Sandals. It's not going to be, like a high-end Iberostar or something like that. But I did it on points. And for doing a trip on points like that, it was really nice. Sue, we're doing something weird this year. Husband's putting 6 vacation spots in a hat, and I'm doing 6 places we've always wanted to go, picking out of the hat, and that's where we're going. That's fantastic. I mean, I like that idea. My wife certainly wants to do more active vacations of, Europe or whatever. That's not in the cards anytime soon, but doing things. I'm sit on the beach and do nothing. And then when we get to about a month away from going to the beach to sit there and do nothing, she's like, yeah, we made the right call because she gets very tense from her job as well. She's in nonprofit management, C-level, C-suite type stuff with nonprofit management. And it's a lot. So being able to completely unplug, something I would love to be able to do is go kind of see the Pacific Northwest, kind of go through the Dakotas and Montana and Idaho. But the problem with that one is like, all right, well, do you go through on the train and then all right, well, we're going through it however fast, and we're not necessarily stopping and doing things, and it's hotels. I mean, it's schlepping from hotel to hotel, day to day to day. I haven't figured out how to put that one together. And honestly speaking, that one could end up being as expensive as the beach vacation. So, you kind of go from there. Ryan talking about Colorado having some great places, following up with Sue talking about choosing Yellowstone, Napa, NOLA, three others, Sedona. Yeah, I would say Sedona for sure. I've been to New Orleans. I mean, New Orleans is great because everybody just thinks of Bourbon Street, but there's so much more to it if you're doing it as a tourist and you're not a frat guy or sorority girl or whatever, and just not looking to drink until you have no feelings. There's a lot of great stuff. If you do pick New Orleans, let me know, Sue. I got some suggestions. I'm sure my LSU buddies got some suggestions. I got a lot of suggestions I can give you there. Jordan saying recommending Glacier National Park in Montana, or Whitefish. Napa's beautiful. So there you go. We've had our vacation section brought to you by AAA Travel. Not really, but if you're watching, could always use sponsorships. Bobby wants to go to Switzerland. Yeah, that would be amazing. I would love to do something like that. I thought I had a sports question in here. Sue saying she'd let me know on NOLA. Got a 1 in 12 chance. Here it is. Where goes one? This is going to be the one we're going to wrap up on, unless we get any other super chats that keep me here. If not, we're going to call it all. Let me say hi to Sage, Ohio, really quick. Hey, Sage, I know you're a regular. I wanted to say hi to you really quick as you were there. But back to where goes one. What happens to Notre Dame if the Big Ten doesn't schedule them? And I've said that the Big Ten needs to put some pressure on Notre Dame. The Big Ten has to say, that's fine, don't join. But we're not going to schedule you. You're going to have to sit there and do home and homes against ACC teams, SEC. I mean, they're already doing ACC teams, SEC teams, whatever. And yes, Notre Dame going to Tuscaloosa, holy hand grenade. That would be amazing. That would be an amazing game to see, but it's certainly not going to be something that's in your footprint. If you can sit there and be like, oh, well, you can go and see games in Columbus, Ohio, and Ann Arbor, Michigan, and West Lafayette, Indiana, or whatever. Don't give them the ground to be able to promote games, to be able to recruit in the area. Yes, all right. If Notre Dame recruits a kid out of Cleveland, Ohio, Notre Dame's still going to play 7 or 8 home games. And so 7 or 8 home games, you're just going to have to get on 80-90 west, pay some tolls in Ohio and Indiana, and get to South Bend. But it's when you sit there and you've got these other games there too. Don't aid them. Don't aid them in their independence. You need to cut the habit. It's like having, try not to be crude here, but it's like having the ex-girlfriend who you haven't really completely broken up with. And I know that the Big Ten and Notre Dame haven't dated per se. They've never been in the same conference. But you can't sit there and be like, well, I'm going to text you at 2 a.m. It's like, what you doing? You can't do that. You've got to make a clean break. If they're not going to get in, you got to make a clean break. And I understand that's got to be kind of a path of last resort, but you got to be getting there at this point. And that's not saying in 4 weeks or 4 months, but you can't give them 4 years. You can't give them 4 years to get to that point. I think you give them a year. I think you sit there and say, all right, here we are. I don't think we're going to get to the point of where they would get in before the new TV contracts are dropped any day now. I don't see it unless they're moving a lot quicker than I've been told. So you need to have something before the new deals come into play, which I guess is 24. So you need to you need to by the end of competition 23, and we know that it takes months to move. It takes months to move. If I were going to move from this house to another house, it would probably take me a month to get ready, just because moving is a pain in the butt. And I'm not moving an entire university's structure in terms of being part of the Big Ten Academic Alliance, being part of the Big Ten athletics, and everything else. There's a lot that goes into it. That's why you don't sit there and see, well, oh, we're proud to announce that Portland State is joining the WAC effective Tuesday. It just doesn't work that way. So I think you got to kind of have a finite thing there. There we go. Sage, sorry I missed the opening, but glad to see Kevin here. Absolutely. The show is available for rewatch at any time. So be sure to do that. Jan, I agree that the Big Ten should wrap up California. I will bring it up next podcast. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm a SoCal boy. I'm from Southern California. Now that the genie is out of their bottle, I mean, just do it. I mean, I think you need to have travel partners for those teams, whether Stanford or whatnot. What I don't think is that 18 is a great number. Then again, we're talking about a conference that's settled on 11. Oh, we have 11 teams. Okay. I mean, it was a cool logo, but I mean, so 18 isn't, I mean, 18 and a half isn't off the board, but I think that 20 is a number that makes more sense, but we will get to that on the next show. I'm going to go live at least once next week. It's going to probably be at the end of the week. Big Ten Media Days. I would leave for Indiana on Monday. Would be there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, home late Wednesday night. Probably in no mood to do a podcast at that point. Probably going to have to re-clean the bathrooms when I get home. But we will go live next week. I'll certainly sprinkle in a couple of recorded shows as well. I'll jump here. What day am I podcasting from the Big Ten? I will probably Tuesday night try to record something, or Tuesday evening to run Wednesday. I just don't know if I see a window to being able to do something right after Ohio State speaks. I guess it just depends if I drive or if I hop in a car with a buddy, and I'm not going to record a podcast in a car with somebody. I'm not going to make them listen to this in the car instead of listening to music or something. So we'll see. But maybe something Monday, maybe something Wednesday, maybe something Friday. I have a Discord channel, but I'm not really promoting it at this point. Let me kind of figure some other things out. But the Discord channel will be a great way for me to reach out to people more too, to let them know schedules as well. It is going to be in the notes here on the YouTube channel of where it is. I'm not checking it right now. So if you send me a message on the Discord channel, expect it to go unanswered. Of course, now I'll log in because I've talked about it, but I'm not really paying a lot of attention to it. But we are at an hour and 32 minutes, and you guys have been fantastic. Definitely not one of our largest shows in terms of numbers, but I'm hoping the replay ability hits us good. A lot of great people that have been part of the show. Be sure once again to subscribe to the channel, hit the like, hit the bell, all that good stuff. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for everything. I want everybody to have a fantastic weekend. Sue, I hope your bacon wrap fillets, green beans out of the garden, and horseradish whipped potatoes are fantastic. Tell your husband he is a lucky man. And, from there, we're going to call it a show. I'm going to get the last couple of comments there, and I'll talk to y'all very, very soon.